This isn't just a story about a company. It's more like a high-stakes thriller, really. It's about a fallen king trying to reclaim its throne with the future of global technology literally hanging in the balance. So let's break down how this all went down. Okay, picture this, February 15th, 2022. It was a day Silicon Valley honestly never thought it would see. They call it the flippening. It's the moment the perpetual underdog AMD finally overtook the undisputed champion Intel in market value. This wasn't just a number on a screen, it was a verdict. The king had been toppled.
So, you have to ask the question that's been echoing through the industry ever since. How on earth did the giant that literally put the silicone in Silicon Valley get so completely and utterly dethroned?
To really get the comeback story, first we've got to understand the collapse. And believe me, it was a long, slow fall from an unbelievable height. For decades, Intel wasn't just a leader, they were the entire landscape. Their TikTok model was legendary. It drove the whole PC industry with these powerful, predictable leaps in technology. They had an iron grip on manufacturing, a true monopoly. But then, around 2015, the ticking just stopped. That steady, unstoppable climb suddenly became a terrifying slide. This was the beginning of the Great Stumble. And we're not talking about just a bad quarter here. Oh no, this was a full-blown crisis of confidence. The stock price just tanked, revenue flipped into billion-dollar losses, and the whole vibe around the company went from absolute certainty to, well, dread. The story wasn't about leadership anymore, it was about survival. So what happened? What was the cause? Well, it really boils down to a single, fundamental technical decision. A choice that ended up sending shockwaves through the entire industry. This image just captures the strategic mistake so perfectly. You've got Intel, the giant, meticulously polishing its heavy, complex armor, this monolithic CPU. But while they were doing that, the rest of the world, especially companies like AMD, just switched to faster, more agile horses. They just rode off toward the new frontiers of mobile and AI, leaving Intel in the dust. So let's get into that design difference, because it's crucial. Intel was caught in what you could call the monolithic trap. They were building one single, huge, incredibly complex chip. The problem? One tiny flaw and the whole thing is ruined. Meanwhile, AMD pioneered the chiplet catalyst. Think of it like Lego. They connected multiple smaller, specialized dies together. This was way more flexible, a lot cheaper, and it let them innovate at an absolutely blistering pace. And the consequences of sticking to that old strategy were just massive. Intel got completely outflanked. They totally missed the boat on the mobile era. That was conquered by ARM. And then they missed the AI era, which basically became Nvidia's kingdom. They were like a Roman soldier watching a fleet of spaceships fly by. Okay, so facing this massive crisis, Intel made a really radical choice. Basically, if you can't beat them, why not build their chips for them? But this big pivot created this fascinating and super dangerous paradox. And here's the dilemma, right? Intel wants to manufacture chips for other companies, but its biggest, most important customer is always going to be itself. So think about it. If you're a rival like Nvidia or Qualcomm, how in the world can you trust Intel with your most secret next-generation designs when you're also competing against them for customers? It's a huge conflict of interest. This whole frenemy problem, it's happened before. Just look at Apple and Samsung. For years, Apple actually relied on Samsung to make its iPhone chips, even while they were fighting these epic legal battles over smartphones. Eventually, though, Apple moved all of its production over to TSMC. Why? Because TSMC is a pure-play foundry. They don't design their own chips, so they don't compete with their customers. It turns out, trust is the ultimate currency in this business. So, this all leads to the most audacious part of Intel's whole plan. This comeback isn't just about corporate strategy anymore. It's a $100 billion bet on the future of American technological sovereignty. Let's zoom out for a second to the global picture. Right now, a staggering 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made by one company, TSMC, on the island of Taiwan, one of the most tense geopolitical spots on the planet. The risk there is immense. So, what's Intel's solution? To build a domestic island of stability right in the middle of the Arizona desert. And the price tag for this geopolitical insurance policy? $100 billion. Yeah, you heard that right. It's one of the largest private investments in American history. But get this, Intel is not footing this bill alone. Not even close. This is practically a national project. We're talking billions in CHIPS Act grants from the government, strategic investments from huge tech partners like Nvidia and SoftBank, and even an unprecedented equity stake from the US government itself. The entire nation is essentially betting on this comeback. So, the stage is set. The money is in place, but now comes the really hard part. The race against time, against technology, and against some incredibly fierce competition.
And you know what? On paper, they have a real shot. Intel's next-generation 18A process has some serious firepower. They're a first mover with their Power via technology, which cleverly delivers power from the back of the chip for better performance. Their new ribbon-fed architecture is designed to compete head-on with what their rivals are doing. Across the board, they're going toe-to-toe with the best from TSMC and Samsung. So that claim of reclaiming technical leadership, it's got real teeth. But, and this is a huge but, actually executing this plan is like navigating a minefield. The threats are coming from everywhere. What if the next wave of AI moves away from their architecture? What if the foundry business just fails to attract a single major customer? What about funding delays or just old-fashioned operational screw-ups? The chances of something going wrong are, well, they're pretty high.
And it all comes back to this one core lesson, doesn't it? Last time, while the giant was busy polishing its armor, the world just changed its mounts. This time, Intel has to invent the future while at the exact same time trying to survive the present. It's an incredible balancing act. So that leaves us with the final $100 billion question. Is this the greatest comeback story in tech history, a move that actually secures America's technological future? Or is it just one last, desperate gamble before the giant's fall becomes permanent? The race is on, and honestly, nobody knows how it's going to end.